always good because there's always questions in Citrus Heights that I can't seem to answer, and I finally figured it out. Get one of the council members to come to each meeting and they can answer those questions. So this evening we're lucky to have Vice Mayor Slowey with us. This evening I'm going to be presenting a short update on the county, maybe about 15 minutes, and then Jeff is going to give us an update on Citrus Heights for about 15 minutes, and then both of us are going to stand up here and you can shoot questions at whoever you would like. And so before we start, I would like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I wonder if you would please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we start, I see our good friend Chad from CHPD is here. Sergeant or Lieutenant? Lieutenant. Thank you for coming. And before we start, I wanted to ask, is there anyone here who does not receive my newsletter? If you do not, there's a sign up at the back of the room. It's once a month, short, sweet, and hopefully information that is reporting back on my activities and explaining, you know, like if I vote no on something, explains why I voted no. Hopefully stuff that you'll find interesting. And from time to time we do community surveys where we reach out so that I can hear from you, which is probably the best part of it because it gives me an idea of how you feel about issues. Tonight I'm going to be sharing a little bit of an update on homelessness, regional transit, our next generation of recycling, and a small public safety update. And I think if I can do that in 14 minutes, I'm going to be doing very well. So on homelessness, you all probably already know that the county, our philosophy at the county around homelessness is to reach these folks one soul at a time. We really have worked hard with initiatives that are broad in nature because the reality of the matter is that homelessness is complex. So we have several initiatives that we're working with. Our first one is families. We are trying hard to reach out and help families who have somehow become homeless. And there are a lot of people like that, people who have less than a couple hundred a month in their savings. If they lose their job, they don't have a plan B. They can easily get evicted, and that's happening to people nowadays. Over the past year, we have over 780 families that have literally declared themselves homeless. Of those, 202 families we have helped exit to shelter. We also are working with Mather Community Campus, which for those of you that are not acquainted, there's a campus at Mather that is, you know, Volunteers of America in partnership with the county and others that are working hard to make sure that we take care of our homeless veterans, but they also have non-residential and residential support for seniors and other individuals. They have job training. So currently they have 122 guests and people waiting in line to get in there. And Volunteers of America is funding 40 units that connects veterans with grants and helps put them through a job training and housing and programs that will help transition them out of homelessness. We also have what we call full service scattered shelters. This really came as a result of our initiative that was intended to place a 75-bed facility somewhere in the county that would help us quickly transition people into shelter, but for one reason or another, our staff were not able to find a location for that site. And so they came back to the board and said, we have to put this, you've asked us to put this money to work. We're not able to put it to work because we can't find a place to put the facility. And so they came up with an idea of scattered site shelters. And what that is residential homes with less than 6 people. We still wrap the same amount of services around those people, but what ends up happening is it's actually a good business model because you can expand it easily by leasing it more properties, and you can also contract it without ending up with one big huge building that the county put millions of dollars into and hired a bunch of people to work at. And so the scattered shelter model is working very well. Since we started it in March of last year, 1 year, we have 175 placed in shelters. We currently have in shelter 70, exited have been 64, and I'm saying exited to stable housing is 64 individuals in the last year. Exited another way was 41. So that kind of gives you an idea of the success that we're having with that model. In other words, it's not easy coming back. And sometimes those people that are homeless have to come and go a couple times before they're really able to transition or find their way out. And while we're doing that, we're helping them with services, you know, helping them clear the warrants, get their ID back, figure out job situation or income, attach them to their income like disability or Social Security, but still it's not an easy path back. We also have an initiative called our Long-Term High-Cost Homeless, where we identify 250 of the top users of emergency services, high-cost homeless. Those are the ones who are costing the taxpayers the most money. And I always said I have compassion for the homeless, but I also have compassion for the taxpayers who pay for it. Of the frequent users, we've identified all 250 and assigned them to case managers. 213 have enrolled in a program, and 209 persons have been housed since implementation of that program a year ago. So that's really good news. There is a program this year that we just started. It was something I was working on for the past year when I went to Tour Pride Industries, and you might have, if you've been reading my articles, you've heard about it. It's called the Homeless Work Experience and Training Program. And the county did approve it a couple weeks ago. I'm very excited that we have a pilot. The county's allocated $387,000 toward a pilot that is going to work with 4 groups of 10 people. Pride Industries is going to manage that program for us, and they just started in March with the first group. And what they'll do is they'll go out and find 10 homeless people, or it can be people in shelters who don't have work, they don't have some kind of an income, and they need we need to figure out how we can get them in housing, but it's kind of hard because they don't have a job. And what this does is it gives them work experience. Pride goes out and takes them to the job. They also then spend a few hours each day in a certificate training program in the construction trades. And then after they pass that certification, they will be placed into a, not journeyman, what is the word for?
Apprenticeship.
Apprentice. I've gone to 3 meetings and I can't get it. I still can't get it. I wonder if I'll get it on the next one. It's a word I can't remember. But anyway, the apprentice, if they do well in the apprenticeship, then they could potentially be placed in a full-time job. And with that, we can connect them to subsidized housing, and they can work their way out of subsidized housing over time. So this is a path out. If it we'll review it at the end of the year to see if it's working well, and if it works well, we'll continue. Regional Transit, one of the things they're doing, they're going to be cutting back on some of their bus routes. And so they're cutting back on the bus routes because Smart Ride is doing so well, it's kind of replacing, it's taking business from the bus routes. And so what they're doing is they're just shifting to what is working well. And if you're having issues with wait times, if you're using the Smart Ride and you're having issues with wait times, have no fear. RT is also looking right now at selecting a vendor who's going to be updating their phone app so that it's more, so it works better. And so it improves the wait times. So that's good news for everyone, I think. I'm really excited about the Smart Ride. Yes?
I just wanted to mention that I came over by Smart Ride, but I had like they were telling me that there was no show for myself and all, and I told them I don't know why, that I was standing outside waiting for the time that they had given me, but I told them that of some of the issues that I've been getting like with just saying 6 new messages or something like that. And that's it. And just in case that it was the Smart Ride, I took a look outside and there was no bus whatsoever.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about this. How about if we talk about this?
I was going to leave it right there.
Okay.
And
okay. Sometimes sometimes it's you have to be out there on the curb and you don't.
Right.
It's hard to connect. So I know how that goes because I had that problem with a Uber one time at a busy airport. I hear you. The next thing I wanted to share was a little bit about the next generation of recycling. We're going to be going to organic next. And what that means is, well, the county is kind of grappling with this. What I'm telling you about this kind of applies to the county, but I thought it might be informational and kind of get your heads to start thinking around it. I know Citrus Heights, Jeff will probably share a little bit about how Citrus Heights approaches their waste, but at the county, I just wanted to share a little bit about the law. In 2016, Governor Brown signed a law, and the bill said that it would mandate that local jurisdictions reduce food waste by 75% by 2025. And so this year is our year that we have to begin to pull that all together. And we at the county are really grappling with how we're going to do that. What is green waste or food waste? I wanted you to know, because if you're like me, I'm still trying to figure out what recycle is. But food waste or green waste is, so the food waste will go, organic waste will go into the green barrel. That's kind of what it's looking like at the county. And that would consist of wood, food, sewage, sludge, paper, cardboard, manure, carpets, waste from living organisms. So that organic mandate is different than what we've done in the past because it's punitive. And what that means is that the state wants us to actually require that people recycle organic waste. And if they don't, they want us to set penalties and administer the program and actually fine people if they don't. And so we're looking at, setting violations, like first violation around 50 to 100, second around 100 to 200, third violation around $250 to $300. The challenge we're going to have at the county is figuring out what do we do with all the food waste. Do we truck it out, which is kind of what we're doing now, or do we build a facility that will, process the food waste without releasing methane gas into the atmosphere? And the challenge that that we are grappling with is, if we do that, will we then soon have other, some kind of technology that emerges that makes that facility obsolete? And we're trying to figure out what are other jurisdictions doing? Do they want to partner with us? There's all kinds of conversations around that. So I wanted to make you aware that that is going on, and that is going to be coming soon to your city, to all of us. I think at the end of the day, the conclusion that the county is coming to is that if we put organic waste in with our yard waste, we then will have to pick up that yard waste weekly or more, at least more frequently. And there will be a huge education around how to do that recycling.
Are we going to be just really pushing to composting? Is that the whole purpose?
I asked
have
if-
lessons on composting.
I asked if we could compost, and they said there will be a program for recycling organics, that composting isn't really part of what this conversation is, because it's too hard to teach individuals how to compost properly, and we're trying to keep the methane gas from being released.
Okay, so it's
So,
methane gas.
it's not so much composting as it is public waste and how we process that waste.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to, I'm going to cut this a little bit short, but I just wanted to say a little bit about public safety. For those of you that were following the Stephon Clark issue that was in the news, I wanted to say how wonderful of a job I think our DA did, Anne Marie Schubert, who did an amazing job explaining the investigation and why they came to the conclusion that they came to. And all of the law enforcement in the whole region got behind Sacramento City Police and the DA to just support during that time, and they did an amazing job. And I wanted to also say that there's some other stuff coming. I won't go deeply into it, but there's some other things coming. You know, over the past decade or two, we've had a lot of reform bills that have, you know, really kind of impacted the tools that our police have in order to keep our neighborhoods safe. There's more coming from the legislature, you know, on de-escalation bills that are working their way through, and bail reform and other things, which I was going to talk to you about, but I'm not because I'm out of time. But what is more important is what someone told me, and I asked someone, you know, how can we battle this anti-police sentiment? I mean, the police are our friends. Without safe neighborhoods, we don't have anything. We don't have economic development or schools. People won't want to move here. Businesses won't want to move here. And so how can we battle that? And I think if we all take it on personally as tell the world about the good things that our police are doing, because they do a lot of good. I know in Citrus Heights, when I was on the city council, they had over 32 different programs, community programs, that the police were doing outside their job to, you know, weave themselves into the community, teach young people, you know, that police are their friends, or help the underserved families at Christmas, or whatever that was. They're working on so many different things to be a part of the community. And I see Commander Russo in the back. And so thank you for what you guys do. And for us, you know, I think we got to get behind our police, because they're getting behind us. And so with that, I'm going to close, and I'm going to introduce Vice Mayor Slowey, and he's going to share an update on Citrus Heights.
Okay. I'm going to keep my jacket off, if that's all right with y'all. So, pardon me, follow up to kind of tag a little bit off of what Sue was saying about the police. If you were either at the council meeting last Thursday or watched it on TV, I don't know, our lieutenant gave a presentation on drones, and there's 3 of them that we use within Citrus Heights. Privacy issues aside, you and I could go to Costco and buy a drone and fly it tomorrow. In order for the CHPD to fly it, they have to get technicians licensed through the FAA. There's a actual class, and then there's a test. But I have to tell you, in hearing and seeing what they're doing with the drones in terms of not only safety from the officer standpoint, but, you know, we don't have a helicopter in Citrus Heights. And the middle of the night, I'll just give you an example, Rush Park. If you know where that is, they can send a drone up with the FLIR, which is the infrared camera, and it'll show them anywhere in the park where there's people. And let's be honest, if it's 2 in the morning, probably shouldn't have people out in the park. Now, if you're somebody who maybe has insomnia and is walking around and the police come up to you, you're probably not going to be upset to see them. It's the folks that are up to other things. So that one I think is great. It can, be additional eyes and ears for the Citrus Heights Police. But more importantly, say they go out in a call in a business district and they don't, calls come in all the time and the information isn't always 100% correct, but they can send a drone up and immediately know anywhere in the area whether, there's anybody on the roof. So it basically clears that area for the officers so they don't have to worry about their own safety. So from that standpoint, I think they're well worth the money, and the people that we have using them within the Citrus Heights Police Department, trained, and again, privacy issues apart, because there's probably some argument there, they're really using them for law enforcement purposes, in my opinion. So enough on that. A couple of updates, and then we'll bring Sue back up and take questions. Sylvan School, what's going on with that? We are in negotiations with the San Juan School District. We are the only ones in negotiations with the San Juan School District to purchase that property. To be perfectly honest with you, we slowed the negotiations down. They wanted to move it forward. We didn't want to spend the money last year, so we kind of dragged our feet. But at the end of the day, sometime before the end of the year, maybe after July 1st, so it's in the next fiscal year, the city plans on buying that property over there. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what we're going to do with it. But if the city owns it, we can control what's developed there. And for any of you who live in Citrus Heights and know there was a development proposal on Sunrise to put an AM/PM gas station in where there was a bank and there was houses around, and let's just say the neighborhoods were livid with that, even though the zoning laws allowed gas station, everything was legal for them to go there. But of course, I get the neighbors didn't want it. So our feeling is if we own the property where the old Sylvan School is, somebody's going to have to come to us and tell us what they want to develop there, and then we will be able to pick and choose. But again, long term, the city does not want to be in property management, but if we buy it, we can control whatever goes in there. I mean, if you guys got ideas, give me some. I've heard dog park, I've heard soccer fields. Well, if we're going to pay $4 million for it, probably not going to turn it into a dog park or a non-income producing soccer field. So again, I don't know what it will be. My guess is it's going to be 3-4 years down the road, but our plan is to outright buy it, so at least we're not going to have any issues of what is going on. The other thing is, quite frankly, because the school owned the 2 properties next door, they blurred the lines a little bit. They extended the new Sylvan playground a little bit onto the property line of the old one, so they have to go back and just do some lot line adjustments. So, again, we're not pushing for it because in the perfect world, we don't want to spend the money till after July 1st. So, the mall, many of you wondering what's going on with the mall. I wish I could tell you great things. The mall sold for the 3rd time in 5 years in December. The company is out of New York. It's an Israeli company in the sense that they get all their funding from businesses in Israel. And that's their only property on the West Coast. So looking at what they've done on the East Coast, we haven't been 100% impressed. They tend to go in and buy and sit on it and then eventually try to parcel it out. We told them up front, and we passed a resolution that we wouldn't allow them to break up their 92 acres in terms of individual parcels. We wanted a full development plan. Now that may be part of the development plan to break it up, but we want to see something that they're going to do with the entire complex, not just a lot over here, a lot over there. And they understood that. I will tell you, there's one parcel they want to sell. They did tell us who they want to sell it to. It's a restaurant, and we said we'll certainly entertain that. But again, our feeling is that should come forward as a plan for that entire corner, not an In-N-Out Burger over here or something over there. So, but I will tell you, and I am excited, across the street, Birdcage. We've been talking to them for a while, and they actually have some really, what I consider some good plans over there. They're not public yet, so I can't go into too many details, but I have to say, not only do they have good plans, but they got the money to back them up. So I think that in itself is going to spurn their neighbor across the street to figure something out. Hopefully. The last thing I want to cover is the districting and the whole thing that's going on with the elections within Citrus Heights. So in December, we were notified of a potential lawsuit. I won't get into the gentleman who's doing this. He's going up and down the state. Perfectly legal for him to do. He's filed 112 of these, and 28 of them have gone to litigation. He has won all 28 of them. And basically what's happening is he is saying that we're in violation of the California Voters' Right Act. California Voters' Right Act. And basically that says that you can't take a disenfranchised minority population and a whole bunch of legalese behind that. But basically, because we don't have districts, and because everybody in the city can live anywhere in the city and everybody votes at large, that is supposedly more difficult for a disenfranchised minority to, A, gain a foothold into politics, and cost prohibitive because you're having to campaign throughout the whole city. So again, when we got notified, there's a couple of legal rules on that. You don't have to respond, but then you're probably going to get sued. Because he's been doing this, and again, I do want to clarify that what he's doing in terms of notifying people, basically writing a letter, he is within his legal right to do so, to say that you could face a lawsuit. If you respond and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and look at coming up with districts, the legislature got smart enough to say, this is getting a little out of hand. They came up with a bill a couple of years ago to limit this particular activity to $33,000. So in other words, this gentleman writes a letter. If we agree to say we're going to look at districts, he's capped at getting $33,000, and he will get $33,000 from the city. It's a heck of a way if you write a good letter.
Really?
What if it's a good idea?
Pardon?
Or what if it is?
And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying. But I look at Citrus Heights as 15 square miles. We live all over. Regardless, you and I can have that argument offline. But so we are looking at the districts. So we're looking at taking the city's boundaries and doing 5 districts. Proximate population within each district will be 16,600 people roughly. So if you think about it, let's just say this building is a district and you all live in this building. The candidate who's ever running now only has to, he or she is only elected by the people in their own district. So 16,600. So obviously the cost goes down, right? Because they're not having to campaign in the whole city. They can walk their district. The drawback, in my personal opinion, is if you have an area and nobody's interested in running, I don't actually know what happens then, but what if you have somebody who wants to run, and maybe they're not everybody's cup of tea, but nobody else wants to run, and then they're automatically elected. So again, you can argue positive or negative, but that is coming. The maps will be put out to the public sometime in May. There's a timeline and a requirement that we have minimum of 3 public hearings. We've had 2. The third one is in April. So obviously we can't bring the maps, they can't create the maps till after the public has given their input. That would be a little not good, saying we didn't listen. So we've hired an outside demographer who's going to develop the maps for us. Don't have any idea what they're going to look like. I've got a rough idea, but the one drawback to that is then does the individual council member hold sway more so for where they live than, as an example, Sunrise, the whole Sunrise Marketplace, which is really the economic engine of the city. So there's a way we could fix that. We could have all 5 council districts touch Sunrise Marketplace. But if you think about how you'd have to do it, it'd be like a piece of pie. You touch a block here, and so I don't think we're going to go that route personally, because I think all of us right now, and over the history of the city, we've all been for what's good for the city, not what's good for my neighborhood, if you will. So hopefully that doesn't become a problem. But that's what we're looking to do. Again, how that's all going to shake out, I don't really know. I'll see the maps just like you in May. But if you want to go online into our website, there's a link, and you can actually submit your own map. if you have an idea that you want us to take a peek at, we'd be happy to look at it. Sir?
Will the elections still be staggered for different members as they are now?
Well, it'll always be 3 one year, 2 another. The interesting thing is the way this thing is written. It says, so the last 3 council members who were elected, Jeannie Bruin, Steve, and Portia Middleton in 18, they have 4-year terms. So, but there's no set, what are the first 2 districts, right? I mean, in theory, in a perfect world.
I couldn't hear that. What did you just say? You said what are the?
So there's 5 of us, and 3 of us
Yeah.
every 2 years, and then 2. What the California Voters Act does not specifically say is how do you determine what are the first 2 or 3 districts to go up. But it does say that current council members cannot lose their terms. So in other words, last year, you had 3 members. So if in a perfect world, if they each lived in a different district, they shouldn't be the first ones. It would be Brett and myself. But I can tell you, Brett and I live within 4 blocks of each other. So we're probably going to be in the same district. So then it's, but that also says you can't inherently kick out an incumbent with this new process. So there's lots of things that we haven't had to deal with yet. Don't know where that's going to go. But we're working on it. But let me just finish this and I'll get your question and I'll bring Sue up. The sad part is it's all based on the last census. Well, when was the last census done? 2010. So when's the next one? 2020. So we're actually going to create our districts, have our first election, then get the new census and have to go through the process again.
Oh my
Now, the truth is, in a built-out city, I can't see major population shifts are going to cause us to change too much, but it could. So we might have 2020 with certain districts, and then 2022 we have to change the districts because of the new census. So unfortunately, it's a bad timing, but can't do anything about it. So did that answer your question?
I don't know if you touched on this already, but how soon will each council member be assigned a district that he has to represent?
So the maps come out in May, and we have to approve a final map by the end of June. So the end of June of this year.
That's not much time.
Not at all.
Not at all.
But if we don't, then that $33,000 that goes to the gentleman who wrote the letter, he can take us to court. And just to give you an idea, Santa Monica just lost their case in December. Their internal costs were $2.5 million. Now, they haven't settled on what his attorney costs are, and he's an attorney. So, $4 or $5 million. But again, that's the law, and we'll work our way through it, so.
Maybe.
I'll take 2 questions, and then you come up and we'll, okay. Yes, ma'am.
So you said you'd had 2 meetings on this? What
2
is it?
public hearings.
2 public
So
hearings?
2 council meetings and people.
And you got another one coming and?
Yeah.
Okay, but what are they what's the feel of what's going to happen? Is it just demographically, or the demographic guys going to come in and say that's probably?
And they're listening.
Oh, they're already here.
They're here, they've been at the here and they'll be at the next one, and basically they're here to take input. Like if you came up and said, a perfect example, Area 1 is across the freeway, right? Well, they shouldn't be isolated over there. They should have, parts on this side of the freeway. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what the population is over there. So
Isn't it just pretty much, don't you just really go by population? No.
No.
I don't know.
No. If it were, that'd be pretty easy. You can just draw some lines and you got 5. There's certain, you try to follow streets or natural boundaries such as creeks, but you also can't take a disenfranchised population and split them so that they're in 2 different. So
that's the whole point.
yeah. So, and that was the thing. They showed us where those disenfranchised populations were, and ironically, there's 2 areas. There's an Asian group, which didn't know. I mean, they're within 5 blocks of me, but Van Maren, east of Van Maren, south of Antelope. And then there's a Hispanic, which is why the whole California Voters' Right Act came into being, which is just behind Birdcage. And just to be clear, that population is 18 years of age or older, but they don't have to be registered to vote. It's potential voters. So And again, truthfully, I've been doing this for 16 years. I thought the system we had worked, but I get the law, so we're going to do it. There's really two options: split it into 5 districts, or we can split it into 4 districts, and then we could have a mayor electedly, by everybody in the city. The problem, I'll be honest with you, the problem with that is, to me, that's a big change, because now you're going to have 1-person mayor for 4 years. I wouldn't, as the council, want to make that decision. I'd want to send that back out to the voters. And knowing that we have to change after the 2020, if we're going to do that, we're going to wait till after that. We're not going to go out and then have to redo that. So at least that's the thinking today. We haven't finalized it yet. So, sir.
Yeah, I won't hurt you. The question, you're having trouble talking. I'm just going to kind of make a statement. It seems to me, and maybe it's my imagination, it seems to me this is an awful lot of BS bureaucracy for a city the size of Citrus Heights.
Well, you said it, not me. I 100% agree with you. But again, it's the law and we have to follow it.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
about our Slavic community?
Slavics are not considered, Russians, Slavics, Ukrainians, they are not considered a disenfranchised population. Asian, African American, and Hispanic.
You gotta be
Who
kidding, more
decides
Hispanics
that?
here than white people. How can
Who
they be
decides
disenfranchised?
It was the law that was passed, the California voters' right. Again,
was the law.
I don't want to defend that because I don't understand all that.
The thinking behind it is there has been a lot more voter participation where, I researched that, I don't even know why, a long time ago. And there was just a whole lot more voter participation and involvement in school boards, same thing, city governments, so there's just so much more participation. Is what, and I don't know whether I can believe everything on the internet, but that's what they said.
I believe that, especially if you think about the population today, Citrus Heights, 84,000, but only 46,000 registered voters.
Yeah.
But you want to run a campaign in Citrus Heights, that's who you're going for, those 46,000. Try to walk this entire city in half a year, it's not going to happen. But you narrow that down to 16,600, that's doable. Plus, quite frankly, the cost goes down.
Yeah.
And, let's just take the example of, right now we don't have any Asians on the council. We have 2 women, 1 minority, and 3 old white guys. So, that may be, in that area, they may, that may be an opportunity to get that. So, I get that, I'm just saying, to me, it wasn't a major thing that I've seen in Citrus Heights. But I get in other areas, definitely needed it. So we're doing it. But again, it's not just the city. I mean, it affects school boards, water districts, any elected boards. So.
What's the petitioner's name?
I should know it because I.
Is it the same guy that did the handicap?
No, different. Completely different. But very similar.
Same mindset.
Yeah.
Same type bracket, different person.
Yep.
I can get that for you. I just
No, it's,
escaped my mind. But it's perfectly legal what he's doing. Yes, sir.
So I happened to be at one of the city council meetings where they did the presentation from the consultant, and it was great. It answers a lot of questions, explains the process, the lead into it, and what all the months are.
Clearly, the consultant did a better job than I did.
No,
But it's attached.
You did
But it's
good.
attached to our website. So if you want the details, I'd go there.
It's Shankman. Just the,
Shankman, yes. Mr. Shankman. How can I forget that? $33,000 for a letter. If you didn't have to be a paralegal
And
or
you wonder
anything,
why lawyers are
might
so
be a
ill thought of.
good gig for somebody. Yes,
Can I ask
ma'am.
you a development question?
You certainly can. I'll try to answer it if I can.
At the end of, or where Wagner Boulevard meets I-80, and there's a big lot that's opened up,
Okay.
and what
So-
else is,
So the old Kmart.
yes,
So the old Kmart is being split. Basically, 1/3 will be big lots that hopefully is scheduled to open in April. The left side, the remaining part, is going to be a studio movie grill, similar to the one that's up in Roseville. You drive by it now, Big Lots is coming along pretty good. Studio movie grill, they had to demo it so they can put the, I say rafters, but the stadium type seating in there. But they've gone back and forth whether it's going to be 6 or 8 theaters in there. So, but I think that'll be great just to keep that area looking
I
better.
just was curious if it was still coming because
Yes.
it's kind of empty.
It is, certainly.
Yes, can you tell me who owns the land just around the rest of this block here?
So you mean the empty lot behind City Hall?
Yes, where the goats go.
Where the goats?
The city owns it.
And to be honest with you, don't have any immediate plans for it. But again, long-term, we don't want to be in the property management business. But certainly don't want to see a strip mall out there, right? Because people who live back there don't want that. At one point, somebody had said, well, put in an amphitheater for community performances. I don't know. We're happy to entertain it if you've got some ideas, but keeping the goats is pretty affordable to get them.
How about a low-income apartment building?
That certainly would be a consideration. As an aside, we did approve low-income permanent housing on Sunrise. It's going to be a 46 units, but they're going to have total case management on site.
Right.
I guarantee you, if number one, if you recall before we built City Hall here, this parcel, including that empty spot over there, was approved for 216 condos. Never got built, probably a good thing. But, according to the governor and everybody else, we're short affordable housing. Now, unfortunately, we as a city are pretty much built out. We don't have a lot left to give in terms of housing, whether it's affordable or not. So, I don't know, setbacks and all that, I'm not, I'd have to look into that, but the city owns it and there are no plans at this point, so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is going to be a twofer.
Okay, well, we'll let Sue go first.
Okay. I am very concerned, and just send a note to my doctor about my pending cataract surgery. But I'm the leader of a little book club group, and the white lines and the yellow lines in Citrus Heights and also in the county, we had to move from, we were at a Starbucks and at Sylvan Library, Oaks Library, and then we're out on Oak. And I get very upset because those white lines are very important at the edge of the roads when it's pouring rain and they're not a well-lit situation, and this was in both Citrus Heights, it's on, we go to Oak, out at Oak. And then the lines are just a real problem, but that ties into in 2011 I went on a quest because they took the white line off 80 when they were doing some repair at the exit of Antelope. I had to go to Caltrans. I got through and those white lines got real fast, but there's no white lines on the crosswalk on the entrance to I-80 at Antelope heading to the west. There has not been a crosswalk.
So you're heading west to go west.
When you're heading west, there is no crosswalk. I cannot tell you, the high school kids, I've gone to the meeting on where the overpass is going to be, and I cannot understand why we cannot have good white lines. Even the stop painted on the grounds
Well,
are pretty faded down.
Since you mentioned Caltrans, I'm actually in a meeting with Caltrans Thursday.
Tell them about that crosswalk.
I know exactly where you're talking about, so I will mention it. But if you see others where either the lines,
The whole area.
and I'm guessing it's all 4, not just the one.
You
Or
mean
3.
on the Antelope,
Yeah.
near the Antelope? Mainly
Well, I'll take a look,
on the
I go
other.
back.
Go look at it.
But if you see lines, whether they're in the city or the county, that either need to be repainted or they don't exist, if it's in the city, you can email me, and if it's in the county, you can email Sue. Because they should be, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a smartphone,
Right.
I don't know if you know about the 311 app at the county that you can
I
download.
heard about it, but I didn't know what it was.
So if you go into your smartphone and download the 311 Sac County app, that will allow you to basically take a picture if you see a pothole or you see a problem that's not safe. You'll take a picture and you make a quick note of what the problem is, and the GPS will mark the exact location. You send that off. You don't even have to pick up the phone and call. That sends that directly
I
to
don't have
be.
to type anything underneath?
You can type and say this crosswalk is hard to see and I don't think it's safe, or whatever you want to say, so that they know what you're complaining about, what your picture is of.
Well, let's
And then you
rephrase
send that
what
out.
you're notifying us.
Yeah, sorry. But I think if you don't want to go through all that, if you just get Matt's card, it'll have, or one of my cards, you can call my office and give him the location, and then and our staff will call the proper department and see if we can get someone out there. Did you have something, Matt?
Oh, yeah, but the secret, I worked with Sue. People think I have this secret way to get stuff done, but when they call me and they're like, hey, we have this problem, I just use the app. And then it gets done in a couple of days.
Can I commend this young man? I called him regarding not having bad air quality, AQI reported on weekend nights and on holiday nights when we were having smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke. And I needed to know whether to put how much asthma medicine to order. And this man had me contact. There was a glitch in the computer at the Air Quality Control District. And I kept data for them and got it. And this man is just, you have an amazing person.
You're talking about Matt?
I'm talking about Matt. He's amazing.
I wondered, yeah.
Well, he's amazing. He sent me to the right person.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Everyone, you know, here's what I have to say about that. When I was younger and I worked for a big bank, the CEO, I was talking to the CEO one day, and he said, Sue, you don't have to be so smart to be a CEO. You just have to be able to surround yourself with smart people. And that's what I did. He's smart.
That's not really as head through the door.
Go here and then come over there.
Is there any budget this year for street repair?
Is that to the county or for the city?
Whoever.
Yeah, I mean, there is. I'll be honest with you, it's very expensive to do roads. I mean, we have about a $2 to $3 million annual budget. Thinking about when we started as a city, right, we didn't have a lot of extra general fund money, so we took money that's derived from the transportation sales tax, and that's what we use. We did getting more money with the SB1, with the new gas tax, but roads are very expensive. I'll be perfectly honest with you, more so than I would have. You gotta have them, I agree. But, we're also an old city, so there is a pavement management program out there. If you have a street that you want to know about, you can look it up to see when it's supposed to go, okay? I saw your hand, but...
I can add too, just a little bit to that, and tell you that I'm on some of the boards that we serve on. There's a lot of conversation going on around another tax, possible another local tax, or do we do toll roads or dedicated lanes? How are we going to address the road situation, because the roads are getting more and more backlogged on maintenance and repair. And so that conversation is going on at the regional level. At the county, we're anticipating that SB1 will ramp up, so that's good news. And we're also planning with our roads to maybe switch our focus from all the worst roads to some of the better roads and the worst roads, so that we don't let the roads digress as far, because the worse they get in pavement condition, the more expensive it is to fix them. So Madison is going to be, there's work going in on Madison in the next couple years, so you're going to see an improvement there.
Yeah, and for the record, the city doesn't own Madison.
Right, who owns it?
Yeah, it's the county. Actually, does the city have half of it even?
No, we've gone back and forth. The county has Madison.
Okay. It's my problem.
So I saw I'll come to you, but there was a question back there?
My question was about the roads too.
Okay.
What about Greenback and Dewey?
Greenback and Madison are scheduled. Greenback, I think Madison between Sunrise and Hazel, and Greenback from Fair Oaks to Hazel, I believe. In the next couple years, there's going to be some overlay work being done there. So those are kind of at the top of the list at the county. So Dewey.
Well, Dewey's-
I don't know about Dewey. Dewey is awful. I drive Dewey all the time, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
So is Green Deck and so is Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just so you know, the city actually happens to have 2 of the top 5 busiest intersections in the entire county.
Yeah.
So when you really think about, Sunrise and Greenback, that is the second busiest intersection in the county. The first is Watt and Fair Oaks. And then Auburn and Greenback, very busy. And 50% of those cars, 60% of those cars aren't from people in the city. They're either Placer County going to Rancho, this way going to the freeway. I'd love to see Sunrise or Toll Road, except for Citrus Heights residents, but I know that isn't very kosher.
And I can also tell you in July, your next kick with the SB1 tax, the excise tax is going to go up in July. So you'll begin to see, you'll see that coming in the next couple months.
So we're going to be paying more?
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, that was a
It's going to ramp up
graduated-
over time.
Sure.
Just dumb question, but who does own the roads? The city or the county? I guess I'm not.
City owns everything within the city boundaries, and everything outside of that is the county.
And the county is when I talk about the county, I mean the unincorporated counties. So there's 2 cities in my district, Folsom and Citrus Heights. So whatever's within those jurisdictions, they're kind of, they get their portion of the Measure A money. They're separated out as a separate jurisdiction.
So when you,
Would be that many county roads in our area then?
very few within the city boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, Madison, it abuts up against us, right? We're north of the curb on the north side. Fair Oaks, it's the center. So we have southbound, county has northbound. And so think about that. If we want to try to fix it, it makes absolutely no sense to do one half the street. So we have to
that's
work.
why we can't get lights coordinated on Sunrise?
No, we own all of Sunrise.
Oh, okay.
So we'll, and actually, they're coordinated to a certain point. We actually have them pre-programmed because to cut out the
I know.
cruising.
Oh, cruising, okay.
Yeah, we don't want somebody to be able to,
I thought-
now, if you went the speed limit,
Yeah.
you should be able to get through most of them, but, yeah, we're not perfect.
This about Sunrise,
Okay,
you have that 46 units. I understand that's a mental.
okay, no. It is 46 units that were approved. It has case management on site. It is not, to quote you, mental. It is for people who have homelessness, if you will, but it's not transitional homeless, it's permanent housing. But that's only a percentage of it. It is low-income apartments, but to me, if you're going to have that, and you have case management on site, before we approved that, we actually took a tour of 4 different facilities that the group runs, one in Folsom, one in West Sacramento, 2 in Southern California. And I got to say, for rental units, they were nicer than a lot of places I would be in my younger years. So I actually think it's going to be a benefit to the area. And if it isn't, you come back and find me and tell me so. But looking at what they're running elsewhere and the construction and the materials they're using, it's not going to be, when I say low income, that's what it's geared for, but it's not low income in terms of construction and or support.
So people will be working, having jobs, or they
They're tied to some kind of income. It's subsidized.
Yeah, you can't be on drugs. If you're there and you need help, you got to get it. If you're not, you're out.
I'd like to say a little bit about that when
Please.
you're done. Because this is something that when redevelopment was taken away, it was before my time on the council, but they historically had used redevelopment funds to help with some of this affordable housing, which a lot of the affordable housing developers need some kind of subsidy to make it pencil out, or they can't build it for that cheap. And so this was, this funding and this opportunity comes with a new condition that didn't used to be there, which is you have to have, the jurisdiction has to agree to have wraparound services for 20 years on site. And so the concern, you know, the good news is we have funding for affordable housing again, which we haven't had for a while. So we're putting developers back to work that actually specialize in that area and do a good job in that area. The only thing a red flag that comes up in my mind is that, at the county anyway, is, you know, how many of these can we commit to, because we're committing something forward, you know, on site for 20 years, you're committing something, a financial commitment forward. So that's just, but we'll probably try and do as many as we can, because it's the only way we can get affordable housing. And now if they tie affordable housing to our transportation dollars, which is what our Governor Newsom was talking about, if we don't meet our affordable housing goals, we won't get certain, you know, we'll be, I don't know if the word punished is the right word, it feels like that, but, you know, in that scenario, you're motivated to try to figure out how to reach the goals, so that you can get funding for transportation dollars and so forth.
Yeah, but I think the key is that they will have on-site management and on-site counselors for those who need them.
Well, what about property, I'm sorry, that's over there besides, behind Staples, that used to be a golf course?
Okay.
Where all the trees have been decimated.
Mitchell Farms.
Mitchell Farms, 271 homes. Those are all for sale homes. So I think, talking apples and oranges here, those are going to be in the 400,000. I don't think those are low income personally.
Those are going to be nice.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd rather see it develop that way than another commercial strip mall, whatever. So I know we're getting close to the top there, so you, and then over there.
So what I hear you saying is it's a done deal for the homeless residents over off Sunrise.
Is that the one south of Old Auburn?
And why wasn't it maybe thought of to be over by City Hall instead of there? It doesn't seem like it suits the people well as far as getting to different businesses and...
Well, it is on a bus stop. You know, there's one right out front. It did go through the planning commission. It did come to the city council. I don't want to rehash all the public hearings that there were for that, but it is a done deal.
And also, oftentimes on the policy level, we're not really the ones who make those decisions. It's someone who has the money to buy a property and make that happen, who comes and applies with an application. We're oftentimes the last to know that they want to do that there. We're hoping they'll come somewhere. So it's not like the city can manage where those projects go. It's how can we make their dreams, how can we make something good happen for the city?
So a question here and then a question there, and then we'll, if you guys got, the rest of you got questions, Sue and I will stay out.
San Diego Court benefited from redevelopment, and now there's San Diego Court.
Okay.
Now there's some empty land as a result of that development. Is that owned by the city?
And refresh my memory, where is San Diego Court?
Oh, Sayonara?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean the empty part?
Okay, so
Yeah,
so
Sayonara.
Sayonara. So the city did buy 11, either fourplexes or one of them was an eightplex. Right. And over time, we somewhere in the city, not necessarily there, we have to replace 46 rooms, 46 bedrooms, low income. Now, part of the project we were talking about on Sunrise Park, because it's not all low income, it's only a portion of that property. Part of that counts to that. The city does own all those empty lots there, and we'd love somebody to come in and build something there that makes sense. But to be honest with you, there's still a little more cleanup that has to occur there. So I hope somebody doesn't come in the near future and want to build something, and unless they've got the wherewithal to purchase some of the others and fix them up or tear them down, and then build something newer. But right now, the city has no plans to do anything but keep those lots.
They do own the land.
City does own them. You want to offer us some money on them and build something there? Come on down. Sir.
I have a question concerning law enforcement issues.
Okay.
Okay. The park, our Arcade Creek Park.
That's the one that is like an outdoor...
Yes, okay. Is that no longer part of the city of Citrus Heights?
No, it is part of the city of Citrus Heights. It's owned by the
Sunrise
Recs and Park Recreation. Now, there is a trail through there that, you know, obviously when it's been raining, no, but, you know, the Citrus Heights does have bike patrols and they have motor units. So the whole purpose of putting those into the right width was, if need be, they can go down there. But do they go down there every single night and look? No.
Hardly at all of late. They used to when it first opened up. They were there a lot of the time.
Okay.
Over the past year and a half, no. And there's been a lot of problems. Where I live, the people come, they sit in there and they do drugs all night. There's homeless encampments in there. There have been
we also have somebody in the back there that has a drone that I know about that maybe fly over there.
Okay, good.
So we'll have one of our lieutenants
Okay, perfect.
take a note of that and look into that for you. But appreciate that, because, yeah, out of sight.
I have something in regards to that.
Wait, ma'am, I'm not through, if you don't mind. Also, at Birdcage, right off of, well, where Birdcage and Greenback are, there's like an L shopping center in there, okay?
Birdcage and Greenback?
By
Yeah,
Toys R Us?
no, a catty corner, where the Starbucks used to be.
Okay, and it's now the insurance.
Right, okay. That area, when I first lived in Citrus Heights 16 years ago, police presence there was...
Yeah, Starbucks, come on, you know they're going to be there.
Okay.
Did they have donuts?
No, but I'm talking about regularly checking the area. Okay, over the past year, that place has become a filthy homeless area. The other day, I had company come in from out of town, and she called me before she came over. She said, can I get you anything on the way over? And I said, yeah, would you stop at the smoke shop and get me a couple packs of cigarettes? When she got out of the car, 6 guys walk over to her, asked her to do a sex act on them, right in front of the cigarette shop. She said there were sleeping bags and trash all over. She said, please don't ever ask me to stop there again. I mean, I was really embarrassed.
Well, no, fair enough. And, you know, first of all,
That's horrible.
no police,
Yeah.
sheriffs, whatever, can be everywhere.
No,
So
I
we
know
need
that.
the citizens to be our eyes and ears. So by telling us here, we have a gentleman in the back who will take note of that. But anytime you see that, let us know, please. But you're right, it's not right.
Okay.
Fair
One
enough.
of my neighbors called on exactly that about 3 weeks before this incident. It took the police over 2 hours to get there.
Well, I'll be honest with you, that's fine, and I'll tell you why. Because on the scale of crime...
Oh, I understand. I totally understand. I was in law enforcement a long time ago. Okay, I understand that. But when there's, and 1 or 2 people, it's one thing. When there's 5, 6, or 8 of them over there, and the place looks like a trash dump, it's
Fair
really
enough.
awful for the city.
Point taken. Point taken. I appreciate you understanding.
Okay, so with that, I want to thank everyone for coming. We're going to be here. If you have questions, come on up. We'll stay as long as, at least I'll stay as long as you need me here. I can't
stay
speak for
until I turn
Mr.
into a
Slowey. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Oh, no, you don't have to go out.
Got bulldozed.
It's right before you get to